What if I told you that women can sense weakness in a man before he even speaks a word? It's not something you wear on your sleeve. It's in your posture, your tone, the way you carry yourself through life. Most men are completely oblivious to these signals, but women pick up on them instantly. This isn't just intuition, it's psychology. Evolution wired women to seek strength, not brute physical dominance, but emotional resilience, leadership, and self-assurance. When a man lacks these qualities, it's like a silent alarm going off in her subconscious mind. But here's the thing, weakness isn't what you think it is. It's not about failing or making mistakes. Those are part of growth. Real weakness lies in your inability to handle adversity, your obsession with validation, and your lack of control over your emotions. As Stoics, we know that true strength comes from within. It's not about external bravado, but mastering your thoughts, responses, and reactions. Today, we're breaking down 7 ways women see your weakness, often without you even realizing it. Recognize these patterns, eliminate them, and watch how people respond differently to your presence. You seek constant validation. One of the most glaring signs of weakness is a man's craving for approval. Women can sense when your confidence is dependent on their attention or praise, and nothing repels them faster. Psychologists call this an external locus of control, where your self-worth is dictated by outside opinions rather than your internal values. Men who constantly seek validation are like empty vessels, waiting for someone else to fill them up. This creates a dynamic where you're always performing, always needing to be enough. How does this show up? You fish for compliments. Do you think I did a good job? You change your opinions to match hers to avoid conflict. You become desperate for responses to texts or social media likes. Epictetus said, "Seek not the good in external things. Seek it within yourselves." Stop looking outward for approval. Instead, develop your own metrics for success. Ask yourself, did I live today according to my principles? Did I act with courage and honesty? If the answer is yes, you need no applause. Women are naturally drawn to men who are self-assured, who don't need constant reassurance because they know who they are. By becoming internally validated, you project strength without saying a word. You avoid conflict at all costs. Weak men fear conflict. They mistake being agreeable for being likable, thinking that saying yes to everything will make them more attractive. But women see right through this, and they lose respect for it. In psychology, this is called submissive communication, where you suppress your own needs to keep the peace. Over time, this creates resentment, both within yourself and from others who sense your lack of backbone. How does this show up? You agree with opinions you don't believe in to avoid tension. You apologize excessively, even when you've done nothing wrong. You back down immediately when challenged. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding yourself in the ranks of the insane. Being stoic doesn't mean avoiding conflict. It means engaging in it wisely and calmly when necessary. Practice assertive communication. Express your opinions clearly and respectfully, without aggression. Women respect men who stand their ground with dignity. Remember, strength isn't about dominance. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, without fear guiding your choice. You can't control your emotions. A man ruled by his emotions is a ship lost at sea. Women are deeply perceptive to emotional instability. Whether it's outbursts of anger, jealousy, or insecurity, these reactions scream weakness because they signal a lack of self-mastery. Emotional volatility often stems from a lack of awareness and poor coping mechanisms. Instead of processing your feelings calmly, you react impulsively, driven by fear or ego. How does this show up? You become defensive when criticized. You overreact to minor inconveniences. Jealousy consumes you when she talks to other men. The Stoic solution? Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Emotional mastery starts with understanding that your feelings are not facts. They are temporary reactions to external events. Practice mindfulness and reflection. When you feel anger or insecurity rising, pause. Breathe. Observe the emotion without acting on it. Over time, this builds resilience and calm under pressure, which women find incredibly attractive. A man who can remain composed in chaos signals strength far more powerful than any physical display. I have continued formatting the text for clarity and better readability. Let me know if you need further adjustments. Nodding while she talks is about truly understanding what she's saying, both with her words and without them. Women notice when a man listens with intention. It's not just about waiting for your turn to speak or throwing in a casual, "Yeah, that's crazy," every few minutes. It's about being present, engaged, and tuned in to what she's really expressing. When you're talking to someone and you can tell they're just hearing you but not listening, how does that make you feel? Probably unimportant, like your words are just filling space. Now imagine the opposite. When someone really absorbs what you're saying, asks meaningful follow-up questions, and makes you feel understood. That creates a connection deeper than words. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's a principle that applies perfectly to relationships. A woman doesn't just want to be heard, she wants to be felt. She wants to know that her thoughts, emotions, and perspectives matter to you. Pay attention to the things she says in passing, the small details most men overlook. If she mentions she had a tough week, don't just say, "That sucks." Ask her about it. If she tells you she loves a certain coffee shop, surprise her by remembering it next time you make plans. These little moments show her that you're not just there physically, you're present. And don't just listen to her words, watch her body language. Is she leaning in when she talks to you? That's a sign of engagement. Is she playing with her hair or mirroring your movements? That's subconscious attraction. But if she seems distracted, checks her phone often, or keeps glancing around the room, she might not be feeling that connection. Listening is one of the most underrated skills in attraction. A man who listens deeply, who makes her feel seen and understood, stands out. So next time you're with her, don't just hear, listen. What is she really telling you? Analyzing digital conversations. Texting isn't just about words. It's about patterns, timing, and tone. If you want to understand what she really thinks about you, pay attention to how she texts, not just what she says. Does she initiate conversations? Or are you always the one reaching out? Are her replies quick and engaged? Or does she take hours, maybe even days, to respond? These little details reveal more than you think. A woman who's interested will find reasons to talk to you. She might send a random meme, ask about your day, or reference an inside joke. Her messages will have energy, maybe a little teasing, emojis, or playful banter. But if her replies are dry, short, or delayed, it could mean she's either busy or not prioritizing the conversation. The Stoics teach us not to assume too much, but to observe patterns. A slow reply here, and there isn't a red flag, life happens. But if you're constantly waiting and she only responds when it's convenient, she might not see you as a priority. Suppose you text her something lighthearted, maybe a joke about something you both talked about last time. If she fires back quickly with an even funnier response, she's engaged. If she just replies with LOL 6 hours later, that's a different story. The energy you put into a conversation should be reciprocated. If it's not, that tells you something. Stoicism reminds us that written words are a window to the mind. The way she texts reflects how she feels about you. If she's curious, asks questions, and keeps the conversation going, she's invested. If she only responds out of politeness, her texts will feel transactional, like she's just keeping the conversation alive without real enthusiasm. Don't chase. If you notice that she's not matching your effort, step back. Let her show you where she stands. A woman who's genuinely interested won't let the conversation die. She'll find a way to keep the connection alive, even if it's something as simple as, "Hey, what's up?" when she hasn't heard from you in a while. So next time you're texting, look beyond the words. Pay attention to the patterns, because sometimes silence says more than 1,000 messages ever could. Eye contact. Windows to her thoughts. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul, and when it comes to attraction, that couldn't be more true. A woman's eye contact tells you everything you need to know, if you know how to read it. It's one of those primal, unspoken languages that go beyond words. A lingering gaze, dilated pupils, or a quick glance followed by a shy retreat. Each of these subtle signals can reveal volumes about how she feels. When she holds her gaze for a fraction longer than usual, when her pupils widen, or when she looks at you and then looks away only to sneak another glance, that's not just coincidence. That's attraction in motion. It's her curiosity, her intrigue, her subconscious interest playing out in real time. It's a moment where words are unnecessary, where the energy between you both says more than any sentence ever could. But what about when she avoids your eyes? Does that mean she's uninterested? Not necessarily. Here's where observation without assumption becomes key. Sometimes, breaking eye contact is a sign of shyness, nervousness, or even excitement. If she likes you but feels overwhelmed by the moment, she may instinctively look away, only to find herself stealing another glance when she thinks you're not looking. It's a delicate dance, one that requires patience and awareness to understand. On the other hand, if she consistently avoids eye contact, never looks back, and seems disengaged, that might be a clearer sign she's not feeling a connection. Stoicism teaches us to accept reality as it is, rather than how we wish it to be. The key is not to take it personally, but to see it for what it is, information. Instead of jumping to conclusions or overanalyzing, simply notice the patterns. Does she lock eyes and smile? Does she subtly check for your reaction when you're speaking? Or does she seem distant, uninterested, and preoccupied? Imagine you're on a date, telling her a story. If her eyes stay focused on yours, if she leans in slightly, hanging on to your words, then she's truly present with you. But if her gaze drifts around the room, if she checks her phone, if her eyes follow distractions instead of meeting yours, that's a sign her attention is slipping away. And that tells you everything you need to know. Eye contact isn't just about attraction, it's about connection. It's a silent agreement between two people that says, I see you and you see me. When two people lock eyes, even for just a few seconds, there's an unspoken understanding, an invisible thread that connects them. That's why prolonged eye contact can feel so intense. It's rare, raw, and revealing. So the next time you're with her, pay attention, not just to the words she speaks, but to the silent messages in her gaze. Because sometimes the most powerful things aren't said at all. They're felt. And if you're wise enough to read between the glances, you'll understand more than you ever thought possible. Feedback from friends, social insights. Want to know what she really thinks about you? Watch how her friends react. A woman's social circle often acts as an unfiltered reflection of her true feelings, sometimes even before she fully realizes them herself. Are her friends warm and welcoming, engaging with you in conversation, maybe even teasing her when you're around? That's a strong sign they know she's interested. On the flip side, if they seem indifferent, distant, or even subtly protective, they might be signaling that she's not as invested as you'd hope. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we should use the world around us as a way to understand ourselves and others. When you're with her and her friends, observe without attachment, without assumptions. If they subtly step back to let you two have a moment alone, if they smile knowingly when she brings you up, if they playfully nudge her when you enter the room, these are all nonverbal confirmations that she's been talking about you. And if her friends like you, it usually means she does too. But what if they're indifferent or even slightly cold? That's worth noting too. Women seek validation from their close circle, and if she hasn't spoken highly of you or given them a reason to be invested, they might treat you as just another guy passing through. This doesn't mean you should try to win them over, but it does mean you should recognize that her level of enthusiasm, or lack of it, is often reflected in them. Picture this. You walk into a gathering, and her friends light up when they see you. They make an effort to include you, they tease her about you, and she reacts with playful embarrassment. That's a woman who sees you as more than just casual. But if they barely acknowledge your presence, or if she introduces you without much excitement, she might not see you as someone significant yet. Instead of overanalyzing every little detail, take a step back and see the bigger picture. Are her friends acting like they know something? Are they subtly encouraging the connection? If so, that's a green light. But if they seem indifferent, that might be the reflection you need to see. At the end of the day, her friends don't control her feelings, but they do reflect them. So pay attention. Sometimes their reactions tell you everything you need to know. If you've made it this far, it means you're genuinely invested in understanding the subtle yet powerful signals in dating. Now take a moment to reflect. Have you ever noticed how a woman's friends reacted to you? Did their energy match hers? Or did you pick up on some indifference? Awareness is key, and the more you observe without attachment, the more clarity you gain. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced a moment where her friend's behavior gave you a hidden insight? Drop a comment below and share your perspective. Your experience might just help someone else see things more clearly. Understanding her nonverbal signals. Body language speaks volumes, often revealing more than words ever could. When a woman is interested, her body will naturally respond to you, leaning in, mirroring your actions, finding small excuses to touch you. These are subconscious signals that she feels comfortable and drawn to you. On the other hand, if she turns her body away, crosses her arms, or keeps physical distance, she may be signaling disinterest or hesitation. Stoicism teaches us to focus on presence and observation instead of jumping to conclusions or overanalyzing. Simply watch. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look within. Let neither the peculiar quality of anything nor its value escape you." This applies perfectly to reading body language. Does she angle her body towards you, even when talking to others? That's a sign of engagement. Does she mirror your gestures, taking a sip when you do, adjusting her hair after you fix yours? That's unconscious synchronization, a powerful indicator of attraction. Let's say you're sitting across from her at a cafe. She leans in slightly, her legs pointed in your direction, her fingers casually playing with her necklace while she listens to you speak. She laughs, tilts her head, and her eyes stay locked on yours. That's not just politeness, it's presence. Now picture the opposite. She's angled away, arms crossed, glancing around the room, her response short and indifferent. That tells you just as much. Subtle touches are another key sign. If she lightly touches your arm while laughing, or brushes against you when walking side by side, she's bridging the space between you. Women don't do this mindlessly. Physical contact is intentional. But if she's maintaining distance, avoiding touch, or leaning away, respect that space. Stoicism reminds us to accept what is rather than chase what isn't. The key here is to observe without attachment. Don't force meaning where there is none, and don't ignore the signals that are right in front of you. A woman's body language is an open book. You just have to be willing to read it. The confidence she craves. Women appreciate confidence, but not the kind that demands attention, the kind that commands it. There's a difference. Arrogance is loud, needy, and overcompensating. True confidence is quiet, steady, and undeniable. The kind that doesn't beg for approval, but simply exists. And women feel that difference immediately. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, a man's worth is no greater than his ambitions. If your confidence is rooted in how others perceive you, it's fragile. But if it comes from knowing who you are, from standing firm in your values, that kind of confidence is magnetic. Women sense it, they crave it. Consider this, you walk into a room. Are you trying to impress everyone, scanning the crowd hoping someone notices you? Or are you simply there, calm and assured, completely at ease with yourself? A woman notices this immediately. She feels whether your energy is centered or scattered. If you exude presence without seeking approval, she's drawn in. If you overcompensate, bragging, trying too hard to be funny, or dominating conversations, she senses insecurity, and it pushes her away. The truth is, confidence isn't something you put on. It's something you build. It's in how you carry yourself, how you handle setbacks, and how you respond when things don't go your way. It's the ability to stay grounded, regardless of her reaction. If she tests you, maybe by teasing you, challenging your ideas, or playing a little hard to get, do you crumble, overreact, or start over-explaining yourself? Or do you smile, stay composed, and let your actions speak for themselves? A confidence is about knowing that no matter what happens, you're good. If she's drawn to you, great. If she's not, no problem. You're still the same grounded man. And that's what truly attracts her. Not the performance, not the bravado, but the unshakable presence of a man who doesn't need validation to know his worth. Now take a moment to reflect. Where does your confidence come from? Is it built on external validation, or does it come from an unshakable sense of self? Drop a comment below, sharing your thoughts. Or, if this message resonates with you, simply type "real confidence needs no validation." Her curiosity about you. A woman's curiosity about you is one of the clearest signs of interest. If she's asking questions, real questions, not just polite small talk, she's investing in getting to know you. She wants to understand how your mind works, what drives you, and where your life is headed. This isn't just about attraction, it's about connection. Stoicism teaches us to value meaningful conversations over surface-level exchanges. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." The same applies to relationships. If she's engaging you in deep conversation, if she's interested in your passions, your goals, and even your struggles, it means she's drawn to your mind, not just your presence. Think about the difference between these two scenarios. In the first, she asks, "So, what do you do?" You answer, and she nods politely before moving on. The conversation stays on the surface, pleasant but forgettable. In the second, she asks, "What made you choose that path?" Or, "Where do you see yourself in a few years?" Now she's digging deeper. She wants to know you, not just the facts about you. That's not just curiosity, it's engagement. Pay attention to how she responds to your answers. Does she ask follow-up questions? Does she seem genuinely intrigued by what you say? If she remembers little details from previous conversations and brings them up later, that's a strong sign you're on her mind. But if she never asks about your life, your thoughts, or your experiences, it's worth considering whether she's truly interested. Stoicism reminds us not to chase validation, but to recognize where effort is reciprocated. A woman who wants to know more about you will make it obvious. So next time you're talking, don't just listen to her words. Feel the depth of her curiosity. If she's seeking to understand you, it's because she sees you as someone worth understanding. And that's the kind of connection that goes beyond just attraction. Are you the one chasing now? Pay attention to how she talks about the future. Does she mention plans that subtly include you? Does she talk about concerts, trips, or life events down the line and casually say, "We should go," or "You'd love this"? If she's naturally weaving you into her vision of what's ahead, that's a strong sign she sees you as more than just a fleeting presence in her life. Women rarely speak about the future with someone they don't see as a part of it. If she's talking about where she wants to live, future goals, or experiences she hopes to have, and she frames it in a way that invites your presence, she's mentally placing you in her life long term. It's not always direct. Sometimes it's as subtle as, "I think you'd get along with my brother," or "One day I really want to go to Italy," while looking at you expectantly. These little moments aren't random. They're clues she's leaving, breadcrumbs testing the waters to see if you'll pick up on them and step in. But here's the thing, just because she includes you in conversation doesn't necessarily mean she's fully invested. This is where your awareness matters. Are her words backed by actions? Is she making an effort to actually do things with you, or is she just throwing out ideas with no real follow-through? A woman who truly sees you as part of her future won't just speak in hypotheticals. She'll align her behavior with her words. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control. You can't force her to see a future with you, but you can pay attention to whether she's naturally integrating you into her world. Don't get lost in wishful thinking or reject your own hopes onto her words. Just observe. If she's avoiding conversations about the future, keeping things vague, or only talking about her personal plans in a way that excludes you, that's a sign. A Stoic man doesn't chase illusions. He recognizes reality and moves accordingly. So ask yourself, are you on the same page? A relationship isn't just about attraction. It's about compatibility and shared direction. If she's including you in her future, she's signaling something deeper. The real question is, does her vision align with yours? Because if it doesn't, no amount of chemistry will bridge that gap. But if it does, that's where something meaningful can truly take shape. Understanding her silence. Silence can be louder than words if you know how to listen. When a woman falls silent, it's rarely meaningless. The real question is her silence comfortable or uneasy? A comfortable silence means she feels safe around you. She doesn't feel the need to fill every moment with words because your presence alone is enough. This is a deep kind of connection, one where just being together is fulfilling. If she can sit beside you in a car ride without forcing conversation, or share a quiet meal without awkwardness, it's a sign of ease and emotional security. It's the kind of silence that speaks of trust, a bond that doesn't need constant validation. In relationships where two people feel at peace with each other, words become secondary. The shared presence is enough. But an uneasy silence? That's different. That's when she's withholding something, maybe she's